Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. If you can get settled, we'll get started. We are privileged to have Mufti Abdul Rahman Waheed amongst us tonight. Alhamdulillah. Mufti Abdul Rahman Waheed was born and raised in Lansing, Michigan. As a youth, he displayed zeal and enthusiasm to involve himself in the religious sciences. He continued his 7-year Sharia program in which he studied a variety of subjects such as hadith, tafsir, usulul hadith, logic, rhetoric by the age of 18. Thereafter, Mufti Abdul Rahman traveled to Pakistan. All love there, Mufti, all love there. Traveled to Pakistan to continue his position to seek knowledge where he, continued his passion to seek knowledge where he completed his 2-year Iftah program, which specializes in Islamic jurisprudence and law. He is legally permitted to pass a fatwa or verdict. Mufti Abdul Rahman is serving as a principal and is a full-time instructor at Michigan Islamic Institute, which is the brother organization of Miftah Institute. He travels across North America as a khatib and lecturer. He is well known for his calm and down-to-earth demeanor, and I can vouch for that from this afternoon. Thank you again for being here. If you can all come up closer, it will be easier for the Sheikh. We'll have a Q&A session after the lecture, and the dinner will be served after Isha tonight, inshallah. Thank you for being here.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So before I start, I'm going to ask all of you a question. All right? How many grandchildren did the Prophet ﷺ have? All right, so you can't Google it. You can't Google it. And don't tell me you're reading Quran on your phone right now. Okay? How many grandchildren did the Prophet ﷺ have? Okay, let's just take numbers. Okay, raise your hand. Go for it. Don't just throw it from your right, like left pocket. Yeah, 3, 4, yes? 6. All right. I'm not going to say yes or no to anything. 6, good. Who else wants to say it? Okay, we're supposed to talk about family matters today? With all these kids, they're not even married. You're married? Yeah, what do you know about family then? Yeah, inshallah. I think they're all, like the uncles are here for something else. Yeah, go ahead. Yes, anybody? You only have one guess? In the back, what'd you say? 2, okay. Hassan and Hussein, that's a... Yes? 7. Okay, anybody else? All right. The sisters in the back? Nothing? All right. All right, I'm not going to tell you the answer right now. All right. What's the first prophet story mentioned in the Quran? Not from the first juz, but in Revelation. The first story of a prophet. Look at this guy. You can't Google that. That you can't Google, Yasin. You can't Google this one. Even if you Google it, you won't find. Maybe you'll find. Google's pretty smart. All right. What's the first prophet story mentioned in the Quran in terms of revelation, not in sequence? In sequence we know, right? What's his first story in sequence? Adam alayhi salam. Look at the guy has his phone open. Is it Adam alayhi salam? He's looking right at it. Right? Yeah, the first is Adam alayhi salam, the story of Adam alayhi salam, the angels. It's in Surah Baqarah, it's the first story mentioned. And after that is Bani Israel, Musa alayhi salam. But what's the first story of a prophet in Revelation? Take some guesses. I mean, you guys got, yes? Yusuf? Yunus, anybody else? Huh? Nuh? Isa? Nothing left? There's 120,000 prophets that give this world. You mentioned 3, it's like nothing left. I mean, that's the extent of Akron's knowledge. I knew I was going to be disappointed in LeBron James' hometown. He has nothing to offer to the world, yes? Zikr Islam. He was over there a few seconds ago. He came up here. Yes. Yes. Musa Islam. He's the most mentioned prophet in the Quran. Yes, I give you that for sure. But not the first story revealed. All right, I'm not going to tell you the answer to that either. You know, inshallah at the end, okay? At the end, I will tell you, for sure. Inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد قال الله عز وجل في كتاب العزيز بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم من كان يريد العاجلة عجلنا له فيها ما نشاء لمن نريد ثم جعلنا له جهنم يصلاها مذموما مدحورا وقال عليه الصلاة والسلام بئس العبد عبد تجبر واعتدى ونسي الجبار الأعلى بئس العبد عبد تخيل واختال ونسي الكبير المتعال بئس العبد عبد عتى وطغى ونسي المبتدى والمنتهى بئس العبد عبد سهى ولها ونسي المقابر والبلا إلى آخر الحديث وكما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. My dear respected brothers and elders, mothers and sisters in Islam, just like when you eat food, it has this brother who was the one eating food with us this morning, and I thought about this because I was eating food with you guys in the morning, in the afternoon. Just like when you eat food, it has an immediate impact. Like if it's spicy and you're sitting there and you don't eat spicy food, your face becomes red, right? You feel like biting your tongue. Right away, you have that impact on your food, from the food. And just like that, there's an immediate impact or effect of the food, right? And then thereafter, maybe there's a short-term impact of the food. Like if you ate too much, you know, if you went to Pakistan and you went to a restaurant over there, I mean, I'm sorry for calling it out, you know, and they're like spicy zinger burger, right? And the picture looks amazing. And when you order it, it's like 2 fingers big, like it's a small, right? And it's been like non-hygienic way of keeping it and stuff, right? And you eat it, then of course you're gonna have an impact a few hours later as well. It's gonna mess up your health. And I remember our coach in hockey telling us this when we were growing up. He used to always tell us not to smoke when we were playing. We were 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. I said, don't smoke. He said, you guys are brown. You're not going to be more physically gifted than these guys. He's like, you're not going to be taller than them. You're not going to be bigger than them. So don't smoke though, because it'll mess up your stamina when you grow older. So we can all safely say that yes, like smoking, and the kids who are here, this new thing that came out, this vaping thing, don't do it. It's bad for you, man. It's really bad for you. Okay? And don't have these bad habits. They're not going to help you in your life. And this is not something that our, the pious predecessors ever wanted to associate themselves with. So, be more, have respect for yourself. Have respect for yourself. I'll just say that. Nonetheless, so they used to tell me, like, okay, we all understand if you smoke, you have an immediate impact. It smells, right? Cough. Then it has a short-term impact. And then also has a long-term impact on your health. Healthy food, unhealthy food. That's how it works. When my knee I tore my ACL, so you have like the orthopedic surgeon side of things. They're just looking for another surgery so they can get more money, right? Do surgery, bang, bang. Then you have the desis, haldi cow, right? Haldi is like turmeric. It's gonna help, your bones are gonna get stronger, okay? So eat haldi. And then my mom actually put like turmeric on my knee, like put a patch of yellow in it. Have you ever seen turmeric before? It's really yellow. Like your fingers it's worse than eating Flamin' Hot Cheetos. It's like all over your knees, yellow, your clothes get yellow. That's what they say. So like there's no doctor. And in Pakistan, you go to Pakistan, it's like that in America now too. There's gonna be, every other person is a doctor and every other person is a mufti. Right? And like you don't have to be qualified to be a mufti, they'll give you answers. Every other person has an answer to some treatment. So basically they'll say, so my mom says turmeric. You all know, just like me, that turmeric is not going to impact you right away. The idea behind the turmeric is if you eat it long enough, it'll have a long-term impact on you. But you might not see the effect of it right away. Just because you tore your ACL yesterday is not going to make your ACL feel good the next day. Why am I talking to you about all this? Because just like this is a fact, we know food has an impact on in your life, on your body, in your health, immediately, short-term and long-term. Just like that, what we do also has an impact in our life. Right away, short-term and long-term. Just because we did something today, good or bad, the notion is we're going to get the reward for it in Jannah or the punishment in Akhirah. But that's completely wrong. Completely wrong. And before I get into that, what I mean by that, in this world, wallahi, it is such a ruthless, vicious cycle of someone's benefit being someone else's harm, or someone's harm being someone else's benefit. I'll give you an example. My youngest brother, and honestly, I never, like you see, I don't have notes or anything. Wallah, I'm going to be no exaggeration. I bring up my brother's name because it just comes up. I don't prepare for anything. I look at you guys, feel what the energy is, and then I'll speak with you, right? So, and now I mention my brother, and it comes up every single time because we loved him so much. So my brother passed away in a car accident, Shaheed. Okay, that was our loss. Our entire family is crying. Our loss. But that tow truck driver that came, another client. So our loss was his benefit. Where that car went to the junkyard, that was a junkyard's benefit. They got another car. They can strip it down and sell it for parts. I can never look at a junkyard the same in my life because they went to a junkyard and they can tear it down and sell it. My older brother says, Sheikh Abdullah says, the worst feeling I had, worse than hearing about my brother's death, was the next day when I went to the cemetery to locate the grave site for my brother. He said the people, the owners of the cemetery, were selling plots as if you're selling plots of homes. It was just a transaction to them. Another plot sold. Another $2,000 in the bank. So for them, it's their benefit, but someone else's loss. It's a vicious cycle of that. Vicious cycle. When my dad is a doctor, I remember him telling us when he wasn't righteous and he never thought properly with the lens of deen, he never actually respected or understood when scholars would make dua, oh Allah, give shifa to everyone. He said, if you give shifa to everyone, who's going to come to me? As a doctor. Allahumma shfi mardana. He was like, well, how are they going to come to me then if they all get shifa? How am I going to make money? So basically, the doctors are making money off of someone else's loss, correct? In Michigan, we call them ambulance chasers. Is that terminology in Ohio? Okay. You know what an ambulance chaser is? He understands what an ambulance chaser is. Are you an ambulance chaser? No, astaghfirullah. Okay. An ambulance chaser is a lawyer who works for personal injury law firms. They see accidents and they follow the ambulance. Okay? Bro, this guy's family just passed away. He just injured. But they're like, here's my card. If you have an issue, we're going to take care of this, insurance. And then but he's happy because that person, now he has another client. Every single person in this world, every system in this world is like this. Except for the system of Allah. Allah says in Surah Isra, in ahsantum, ahsantum li anfusikum. Wa in asa'tum falaha. A few verses later he says, man ihtada fa innama yahtadi nafsi. Wa man dalla fa innama yadullu alayha. Allah says, in ahsantum, if you do something good, you are doing it for yourself. The first beneficiary of your act of good is yourself. You know, in Sunnah and Hadith, we read, Al-yadul ulya khayrun min al-sufla, right? The upper hand is better than the lower hand. Okay, you heard this all your life? What is meant by the upper hand? The giving hand. What is meant by the lower hand? The taking hand. Now let me tell you something. When the Prophet ﷺ, any time in his life he gave anything, he gave with the lower hand. He never gave like this. Why do you think so? We just went over it now. The upper hand is usually the giving hand, right? And the lower hand is the taking hand. But here's the Prophet's sunnah. Whenever you give someone something, there's two sunnahs. One with your right hand and with your lower hand. You're not supposed to give like this. You know, you give a check, donations, you're not supposed to give like, you're supposed to give like this. Any gift you're supposed to give. And that's why elders give like this, sometimes two hands. Why with your lower hand? Because the Prophet's making the person that's receiving feel like you're better than me. Because me giving is helping me. Right? If you give sadaqah, whose risk increases? Yours or the one who you're giving? Who's telling me? Yours. When you give something, the wrath of Allah gets extinguished for you, not the first person who's receiving it. Right? So you're benefiting first. You're benefiting first before the other person. Sahaba were such that they looked and were so eager for these opportunities because they knew that their salvation is in this. Well, I'll give you one example. Check this out. Umar ibn Khattab anhu, he walks into the room and there are people eating food. There was a person sitting there, his name was Amr bin Tufail bin Amir al-Dawsi. Amr was a son of Tufail. And I asked you an easy question at the beginning of this lecture. I said, how many grandchildren the Prophet ﷺ have? And we were confused. Then I asked you, what was the first story mentioned to the Prophet ﷺ in the Quran? We were confused. The reason why I said that to you is because I'm going to mention a lot of names of Sahaba. One sister was sitting here just today, earlier, asking me a good question about reflections. Your own personal reflections. What is a ruling on it? How should we do it? Basically, when we speak, we just speak about them and what they said. That's because that's more powerful. So I'm going to say all these different names, and what we should think is, man, I got to learn about these people. Because really, the more I learn about them, Sufyan Thawri, he says, ما رأيت شيئا أحسن للقلب من ذكر الصالحين. He said, I have not seen anything more beneficial for the treatment of this diseased heart than the mention of pious people. It helps all our hearts, how you know your heart's diseased? جمود العين من قسوة القلب. That not being able to cry in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a sign your heart is hard. Allama Rumi, he says in a poem, rahmatullahi alayhi, he says, Ash khwahi raham kun bar ash ke bar. You guys speak Farsi here? Anybody? No. Ash khwahi raham kun. Now I can say anything now. And you're like, alhamdulillah. Ash khwahi raham kun bar ash ke bar. He says, if you desire, he says the biggest treasure of life is to be able to cry in front of Allah whenever you want. That's the biggest treasure of life. Because it's the easiest way of taking from Allah. Just crying. How does a child take from her mother or his mother? They have no language, they don't know how to speak, but they cry. And when they cry, the mother and father do everything for them. When they're 2-3 months old, they have no language. The only thing the baby is taught by Allah is how to cry. And because the baby knows how to cry, the baby gets the entire house to do things for that child. And today we forgot how to cry. Right? That's the reality. So basically he's saying the biggest treasure a human being has, and he's going to give us a solution to this too, so wait for the solution. He says the biggest solution, biggest treasure a human being has is the tears that are flowing in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because it immediately opens the treasures of Allah. In the Battle of Yarmouk, and I did not forget, I was going to tell you the story of Amr bin Tufail. Okay, I'm going to come back to it. I don't forget that stuff. So in the Battle of Yarmouk, this was a very difficult battle. Very difficult. Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah was the Amir, and this was in Jordan, and Khalid bin Walid, who was part of this Jama'ah. And basically, it became so difficult, so much resistance, that Khalid bin Walid said, forget it, I'm not going to wait. There's so much waiting games. People waiting, small little skirmishes. Khalid bin Walid went up to Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah, he said, okay, forget it. I'm going. And give me 10 people and we'll handle these people. So Abu Sufyan says, Khalid, are you crazy? 10 people? No way. And he says, Abu Sufyan, you were so tough in Jahiliyyah, what happened to you now? And he says, no, I'm not saying you should not go, but I'm saying 10 is too less. This huge army, take more. So basically, people are looking at the kids who are talking and all that stuff. Get used to this. This is normal. Honestly. Get used to paying attention with some little noises. It's good. That means people are in the masjid. Right? That's okay. You know why I say that to you guys? Because I remember when we were young, me and my brother used to make a lot of noise in the masjid. And we used to eat flaming hot Cheetos and we used to leave marks on the masjid carpet. And then one time, it was in Dearborn. So some mashayikh, they came from overseas and people were sitting in front of them and they said that, these two, they were telling the sheikhs that you need to tell Dr. Waheed Ashraf that he should never let his kids come to the masjid. And they were speaking Urdu. And we never understood what they were saying, but we got it. They're talking about us. So my brother was like, should we beat them up? They're talking crap about us? He's like, we're in the masjid. We're like, no, but just leave it alone, it's all good. And like, no, I think they're talking about us. I was like, yeah, it's all good. And my dad's turning red. And then the sheikh said, his name was Haji Abdul Wahab, he said, listen, the thing is, our children back home, they hear adhan all the time. Right? They hear it all the time. So it comes in their ears and it ends up in their heart somehow. These kids are never going to hear the adhan. Let them come to masjid, who cares? And so these same kids, one day they will be speaking to you, will be giving da'wah to you to become scholars. So don't say anything to these kids. Alhamdulillah, that day came. So this is the new norm. Get used to hearing children and paying attention. You have to understand how to pay attention, even though you're having some distractions. Of course, we try to make them quiet and stuff, so don't worry about it. So what was I saying? Khalid bin Walid anhu. He said, okay, take 60 people. All right, he said, okay, I'll take 60. So then he asked the Amir, Abu Bakr al-Jarrah, he said, let me choose the 60 people that will go with me. You don't choose it, I'll choose. Abu Bakr al-Jarrah says, okay, go ahead, you choose. You choose who's going to be with you. But then he asked him a question. He asked him, what quality are you looking for in these people that you will choose? Right? Are you looking for the fastest horse rider? Are you looking for the best sword fighter? The sharpest archer? Who are you looking for? What quality? So Khalid bin Walid, he says, أريد رجالا لو أن أحدهم أقسم على الله لأبره. He says, I'm looking for people whose tears are recognized by Allah. They've cried in front of Allah so much. Allah recognizes their voice, their tears, that once they cry again in front of Allah, Allah will give them what they want. That's who I'm looking for. Forget the bravery and all that stuff. And Abu Bakr al-Jarrah says, okay, no problem, go ahead. And what's fascinating about the story is the fact that he knew 60 people like that. 12 of them were Muhajirun and the rest were Ansar. He picked them out. You coming with me. And Allah gave them victory because of these 60 people. And I said, well, if I have one of them, khalas, Allah will give us whatever we need. So I was saying that the biggest treasure is the tears in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Right? Man akthara buka'ahu indi akthartu dihku fi dunya. Hadith al-Qudsi, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, a person who increases his tears in front of me, I increase their joy in this dunya. We have difficulties, problems, cry more in front of Allah. Cry more in front of Allah. Iqbal, he says, Tu bacha bacha ke na rakh ise. Tera aina hai wo aina. Ki shikasta ho to aziz tar hai nigah aina saz mein. He says, this aina means mirror. He says, this mirror, the heart that you have in your heart, this heart that you have in your chest, don't safeguard it from being hurt and going through pain. Because the more broken it is, the more beloved it is in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The more it's in pieces, the more Allah loves it. So that Musa asked Allah, where can I find your pleasure? Where can I find your pleasure? Allah says, عند منكسة القلوب. Find my pleasure next to the people who have broken hearts. Because people who have broken hearts know how to cry in front of Allah. The moment they stand, ruku, sajda, they're crying. The moment their hearts break. Wallahi, after my brother passed away, You know, even reading Surah Fatiha in Sirri Salah, in Asr, Dhuhr made you cry. Because your heart was so broken that you just kept crying. And that moment is so beautiful that when you can do that. So Rumi says, how do you get that? May Allah not put us through difficulties to get that. Say Ameen. Because it's very difficult to go through difficulties. Right? So Rumi says, Ash khwahi raham kun bar ash ke bar. If you want to get those tears, have mercy on those who are crying in this world. Are there people crying around us? Going through difficulties? Find them. Find them. Have mercy on them. Now, I was saying to you, now that you're having mercy on that person who's crying and you're helping that person out, what is that going to do to you? You're going to start crying. So who benefited more? Huh? Who benefited more? You did. You got that treasure. That's what Umar ibn Khattab anhu, he was sitting, he comes into the room, and I said to you that ما رأيت شيئا أحسن من تحسين القلب من ذكر الصالحين. That I've never seen something that is more beneficial for the treatment of the diseased heart than mentioning pious people. So hopefully in this gathering, we're going to mention many pious people, and because of their mention, we're going to feel good, not because of me speaking. Does that make sense? Because it doesn't matter if anyone was speaking, but they were mentioning those people, you would have the same impact. I would have the same impact. Doesn't matter who's speaking. So Umar ibn Khattab says, he walks into the room. Sheesh, 26 minutes, I didn't even start. So Umar ibn Khattab walks into the room, and he sees this man named Amr bin Tufail bin Amr al-Dawsi. So Tufail bin Amr al-Dawsi, medical school student, learn about him because he was a doctor of his time. Okay? Tufail bin Amr. Tufail bin Amr. You're going to forget his name after. So it's okay, I'll tell you after. Tufail bin Amr al-Dawsi, he was a doctor of his time. His son, so Tufail bin Amr al-Dawsi passed away as shaheed in the battle of Yamama, which was a very difficult battle against Musaylim bin Kadhab. His son was with his father, and they were both making dua, Allah, shaheed, shaheed, shahada, shahada. But Tufail became shaheed, but his son never became shaheed. But one of his arms was amputated, his right arm was amputated in the battle, became shaheed. So, when Umar ibn Khattab walked into the room, he sees this man with his arm cut off. If his arm is cut off, what's happening? There's an open wound, and he's bleeding. And they're eating food. So this person scoots away, because he doesn't want Umar ibn Khattab to get disgusted. Because if my blood is leaking out, how is he going to eat food? And there was no treatments like nowadays, you know, you can just, no, there was no just open wound. It was open wound the whole time. And a lot of people died through infections, right? Because there's no way to do it. So he was sitting there. As soon as he sees Umar ibn Khattab walking in, he scoots over because he doesn't want to get him disgusted. Umar ibn Khattab who sees him doing that, and he says, "Limadha tanahayta anni?" Why have you scooted over? And then he knows why he scooted over. He says to him, "Wallahi ma akulu min hadhihi al-qas'a hatta ta'kulu minha." Wallahi, I'm not going to eat from this plate until you eat from it with me. Then he says, "Ma fil qawmi rajulun ba'duhu fil jannati ghayrak." There's nobody sitting in this gathering whose portion of their body has already reached Jannah other than you. It'll be my honor to sit with you. My honor. So now your portion of your body or your money that went, who benefited? You benefited more. Allah's benefit is after. Allah doesn't benefit. Allah is the one who's nafi'. He doesn't benefit from anything we do. So I come back to this, and this is a very important concept in Islam. You know, I'll say another story about that. Another name that'll come out. His name was Uthman bin Mad'un radiallahu anhu. He was the first Sahabi to be buried in Baqi' from Medina, from the Muhajirun, first person. And the Prophet loved him so dearly. He had beautiful eyes. He was known as a person with beautiful eyes. And he was walking in Mecca in front of the Kaaba, and he saw this poet reciting a poem. "Ala kullu shay'in ma khala Allahu batil." Everything other than Allah is null and void. And just to, you know how you say, MashaAllah, after someone recites Quran, So in those days, when someone would recite a poem, they would say, sadaqt, 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 like this. You've spoken the truth, He's dropping truth bombs like that, He's dropping gems like that. Sadaqt, you spoke the truth. So then he says, وَكُلُّ نَعِيمٍ لَا مَحَالَةَ زَائِل. His name was Labid. He accepted Islam as well. And he says, every single ni'mah one day will come to an end. So this person, he says, كَذَبْت. You are lying. Why? إِنَّ نَعِيمَ الْجَنَّةِ لَا يَزُولُ. The ni'mah, the virtues, the happiness of the Jannah will never end. So you're lying. So at this time, the Muslims did not express their Islam. They're all hiding their Islam. So the moment he said that, people started becoming suspicious that this person accepted Islam. So they jumped him. Started hitting him and beating him and hitting him and beating him. Until one person poked his eye with a dagger. And he became blind for the rest of his life. And I mentioned he had beautiful eyes. So he just lost his eye just because of one statement, kadhabt. So his uncle, who was the father of Khalid, he says, يَبْنَ عَمْ إِنَّ عَيْنَكَ لَغَنِيَّةٌ عَمَّ أَصَابَهَا. Man, nephew, your eye was way more beautiful and precious than what you put it through. You didn't have to do that. So he says to his uncle, يَا عَمِّي إِنَّ عَيْنِ الصَّحِيحَ لَفَقِيرَةٌ إِلَى مِثْلِ مَا أَصَابَ أُخْتَهَا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Wallahi, the eye that can see wishes it was the eye that cannot see. Because the eye that cannot see is sacrificed for Allah and is more beloved to Allah. It's shaheed. Khalas. Umar ibn Khattab, who saw someone eating food with his left hand. Umar will come from the back, he hit him. Said, Kul biyaminik. Eat with your right hand. He stopped eating, and then he started eating again with his left hand. Umar al-Khattab said, what? Hit him again. Kul biyaminik. He stopped eating for a second, didn't say anything, and he started eating with his left hand again. The thing about Islam and Deen is very interesting. In the army, every single time your rank goes higher, you have these badges, these colors, medals. Like my dad's brothers are all like generals and stuff in Pakistan Army. They're like all this, the whole chest is full, right? It just never ends. And so every single time you go higher rank, there's medals, badge, ceremony. The thing about sacrificing for Allah, the more you sacrifice for Allah, the more unknown you become. And the more unknown you become, the more closer to Allah you become. So there's no award ceremony in this world. The award ceremony is in Akhirah. So what does that do? That sometimes makes us not appreciate those who made the struggle before us, because we don't see them doing it. There's people in this masjid. Yes, the young sisters are here, brothers are youngsters. Yeah, we have energy, we have ideas, we have technology. But you know what? There must have been some people that struggled day and night to open this masjid, right? And maybe they've passed away, and their kids are alive. And they're not walking around, they should not be walking around showing that off. But it's your job to, appreciate them. Because it's not being exposed, You're not supposed, the more you hide your good deeds, the more they're beloved they are to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's the problem with the ummah today. We don't recognize it, right? So that's why LeBron James, the reason problem with him is he's the only player ever in any sport who called himself the GOAT. Like, who does that? Other people call you the GOAT, but he's the one who self-proclaimed that I'm the GOAT, right? In other sports, you don't do that, so don't get mad at me for saying that. So other sports, like, okay, other people say he's a GOAT. He said, oh, I'm not. Say, yeah, I'm the GOAT now. Okay, brother, la tazukku anfusakum. Don't claim piety, brother, all right? So this person who was eating with his left hand, he hit him, eat with your right hand. He never did. So then Umar ibn Khattab said, I'm telling you to eat with your right hand, and you keep eating with your left hand. At this point, this person turns around, and his right hand was shaheed in the path of Allah. He couldn't eat with his right hand. Okay? But Umar ibn Khattab didn't see it, because he was hiding it. And Umar ibn Khattab didn't recognize him, that his hand was shaheed in the battle of Uhud, protecting the Prophet's face. There were a few Sahaba whose hands became paralyzed for the rest of their lives, protecting the Prophet's face. One was Talha anhu. He put his hand out and his whole arm got hit by arrows. He couldn't move his arm for the rest of his life. Because he prayed. Imagine how beautiful and beloved that arm is in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet says, Man arada minkum an yara shaheedan fi hadi dunya falyanzur ila Talha. A person who wants to see a walking shaheed, look at Talha. He's a walking shaheed. Why? Because his whole body had marks of shahada, but Allah gave him more life. Right? So Umar al-Khattab, upon seeing that he couldn't move his left hand, he couldn't move his right hand, because it was shaheed, Umar al-Khattab fell to his feet, cried, and he said, Wallahi, my entire life, my entire body is not as precious as one of your hands. Because one hand has been sacrificed for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in ahsantum li anfusikum. When you do good, who benefits? Who benefits? I benefit first. Yes, people will benefit. I give $1,000 donation to this masjid. Yes, the masjid will benefit. But the first beneficiary is myself. Now, if that's also true, then this is also true. If I do a sin, who's the first one going to be harmed? Myself. Okay, if I get angry at someone and swear at somebody and commit a sin, yeah, I might hurt his feeling or her feelings. But actually, who's going to be hurt first and the most? Yourself. In asatum falaha, you will be hurt the most. You're causing damage to yourself by committing a sin. Committing a sin is actually suicidal. Because the more sins you commit, the more harm you're going to go through in life. Not just spiritually, physically, financially, emotionally, family-wise. Sufyan Thawri, he says, Inni ara athara dhanbi fi imra'ati wa dabbati. Sufyan Thawri rahmatullah says, Wallahi, I see the consequences of my sins in the behavior of my wife and my animal. I don't blame her why she's mad at me. I blame myself. I must have committed a sin. Look how human beings think. Completely different believers. Why are you all fed up for it? What you all, oh man, I must have done something wrong. Now imagine the wife is thinking like that and the husband thinking like that. Everything will be better because no one's blaming each other. Because the instinct of a human being is what? All good, everything that's good, you direct to yourself. Everything is bad, you blame others. One time, I was upstairs in my room and a glass fell in the kitchen. And I have my two sons, Yusuf and Mazi. They were like 7 and 5. I run downstairs. I said, who did that? And they're both like this, them. One guy's like, he's pointing here, other guy's pointing the other way. Because that's the instinct of human beings. Something wrong happens, right away we deflect it to somebody else. Something good happens, even though we have no share in there, we love being the hero. They draw something good, but I did that. That's human beings do that. Allah is saying, Inna asatum falaha. Listen, the first person you should blame is yourself. Okay, now I'll conclude with this statement that I wanted to start with, all right, about the effects, immediate, short-term, and long-term. If we understand this, our lives will be better, our family lives will be better, everything will be better. You're not studying properly, you can't memorize your text. You're like, you know what? Let me pray 2 rakat salah quickly. Maybe I committed a sin, because of which my understanding has become weak. Imam Shafi'i said that to his teacher. He says, I can't memorize anymore. Imam Shafi'i's memory was photographic. So something wrong with me, I can't retain this ilm anymore. His teacher didn't say, oh, you know what, pop a pill. Or eat some haldi. All right? His teacher said, hey, you know what? Usually, a loss of memory or weakness of memory is coupled with sins. So you must have committed a sin. شَكَوْتُ إِلَى وَكِيعٍ أَنْ سُوَى حِفْظِي فَأَوْصَانِي لَا تَرْكِ الْمَعَصِي. He said, leave sins. فَأَرْشَدَنِي أَنَّ نُورَ مِنْ إِلَهِ وَنُورَ اللَّهِ لَا يُطَلِعُ عَصِي. He said to me that this is the nur of Allah and Allah's nur will not come into the heart of a sinner. Do tawbah. So in any place in your life, this will work. Any place. Children, wives, brothers, sisters, college, family, friends, colleagues, business, anything. This is a solution that works everywhere. And if it doesn't work, do it again. One person came to one scholar and he said, Sheikh, I read a hadith, a person who recites Surah Yasin, all of the affairs of his day are taken care of. I recite it, they're not taken care of. What should I do? He said, recite it again. I'm not no Peter over here, okay? 3,343 times this dua. And then 6,466 times this dua. No, man, this is all rubbish. Okay? Recite that again. Because the Prophet ﷺ said it works. So do it again. When the Prophet ﷺ said to one person, he said, my brother's stomach is messed up. He said, feed him honey. He said he said, it actually got worse. He said, no, feed him honey again. He came back and said, it got worse. The Prophet ﷺ said, صَدَقَ اللَّهُ وَكَذَبَ بَطْنُ أَخِيكَ. Allah has spoken the truth and the stomach of your brother has lied. Because Allah said there's shifa in the honey. Feed him again. And then his stomach got better. Right? So with this belief, I'm saying that we think about these things. So Ibn Abbas, radiallahu anhu, he says, quickly, I'll go over them. Do I have time? No, okay, I'll go over them quickly. He says, Inna lil hasana diya. He says, 5 immediate effects and impacts of one good deed. 5, immediately, not short term or long term. I'm talking about, Assalamu alaikum. He says, immediately. He said, immediately, this is the impact of it. 5 more. Like, you smoke right away with the smell. Arabs, when you guys eat biryani, it becomes all red, like all that. This is immediate, okay? Who was that guy who I saw? This Imam Sahib, the Sheikh today. He was eating biryani, his cheeks became so red. This is all red. I was like, what's this? So this is the immediate impact. So he says, and Desis, their way of telling you stop eating is to make it spicy. And they tell you we eat spicy food, but reality is they made less food. Okay? So they're telling you just, they want you to leave. And then they're also, their food's too spicy for them. My older brother is an imam in Flint, and they're all Arabs, they're Syrians. So my older brother comes to my house, he can't eat spicy food anymore. He can't, and so my mom has to put no spices in the food, and we can't eat the food. Just for him, the food's made like that. So this is, he says, 5 immediate, for all of us, make a mental note of it. 5 immediate impacts of good deeds. He says, Inna lil hasana, any good deed, the first impact, diya'an fil wajh, attraction in the face. Right away you do a good deed, Uthman bin Affan, he says, a person who does something good hiddenly, albasallahu lida'a amalihi. Allah puts the garment of their action on. So whatever you're doing, but Allah puts the libas of that garment on in front of you. So people can see it. They can see the reflection of it. So he says, one good deed, Allah puts attraction on this person's face. I'm translating diya, even though diya means light. But what a person is attracted to light. A person is guided by light. So that's what, and you see scholars and pious people, they have this attraction, right? And that guy, even though they don't speak, you can just look at them, they get guided. And honestly, another thing that happens amongst families is, you have the husband and wife, and one of the things that leaves so quickly is attraction of each other. You're no longer attracted to each other. That happens so fast. Before you know it, you don't feel the same level of attraction. And you then start thinking that it's maybe because I'm losing some hair. And she starts thinking it's maybe because I'm doing this. No, it's not that. Maybe it's because we're doing less good deeds. And the more good deeds we do, the more Allah will put attraction on our faces. And there will be an attachment, And parents with their kids. Kids are not attracted to their parents, meaning they're not sitting around them. That's the last thing they're thinking about. That I gotta be with my parents. There's all these things before that. And it's a very bad thing. Anyone whose parents are alive and your parents are in your house, this is a horrible thing to do. All those friends, this is a sign of the age. أَدْنَا صَدِيقَهُ أَخْصَى أَبَاهُ. You bring your friends closer and your father further. You are a sign of the day judgment, literally. Literally. If someone asks you who's your best friend, the first person should be your father. Who's your best friend? My dad. Mothers, yes, too. Right. Mothers are your key to Jannah. But friendship is my father. That's what it should be. My father, he was a savage. He never ever put a doorbell in our house. I bet you if he was around when there's ring things, he'd probably break it. He never put a doorbell, and he never had a key to his house. He just expected that by the time, just because how like impactful of a father he was, he knew that by the time he gets out of his car and comes to the front door, his kids will all run to the front door to open the house door. He just knew it. And actually, that's exactly what happened. We would run downstairs, someone would grab his jacket, someone would grab his shoes, someone would grab his keys, you know? Imagine that feeling. It's a beautiful feeling. And how do you get that feeling? If you miss it out, you start doing good deeds. Don't say to your kids, you have to go khutbah, you listen. You hear this? Don't say that. No, we start doing more good deeds, and Allah will give us that attraction. The kids will start coming closer to us. And it is a fact. The fact is a fact. You cannot, change the facts around. Right? This is the system that works. Inna lil hasana diya'an fil wajh. All right, that's the first thing, attraction. The second thing that happens immediately is وَنُورًا فِي الْقَلْبِ. Allah puts light in the person's heart. All right, now you have clarity. There's no confusion of what's right and what's wrong. If you try to summarize the world in one word right now, it's confusion. Can I do this? Can I do that? Can I do this? Confusion. Clarity. Allah gives this person clarity. Imagine trying to drive in the Smoky Mountains or Colorado, in those Rocky Mountains. You're driving with no headlights on, no street lights, and no artificial lights. And you turn your lights off in these, roads that are so narrow, high altitude. Would you survive? Very difficult to survive. Our life is at a higher pace than that, and more dangerous than that. And imagine living our life without light in our heart. We'll be making wrong decisions all the time. So light in the heart means you start making the right decisions. Gives you clarity. Should I do this or should I not do this? Okay, let me tell you something. You guys, how many university students here? Raise your hands. The most useless, I'm sorry if there's someone here, the most useless profession in America is university advisors. You know those guys in the advising section? All right, you go there, hey, what should I do? I'm here, and they're like, oh, you should do this. This is a true story. I walked in like this, literally like this, to Wayne State University. I had an appointment with an advisor the first time in pre-med, in my first semester. Now with the turban, with the topi, walked in like this, I sat down in front of them. The guy looks at me, I forgot what name he mentioned, but it was one of these names. He's like, all right, Bob, what are you doing this semester? I'm like, Bob? I don't look like Bob. All right, so Bob, the whole session I was Bob. The lady did not even have enough time to open up my file. And she's acting like she really cares about me. Okay, then what happens is you have students in college always changing their majors. Am I right? What are you doing now? I'm doing this major. What are you doing now? I'm doing that major. What are you doing now? Because there's confusion, there's no clarity. And there's no one to ask. But Allah is the one who to inspire. Maybe you don't have someone to ask. But you do good deeds, Allah puts light in your heart, Allah makes decisions easier to make. Many times making decisions becomes so tough, it keeps you sleepless at night. What should I do? What should I do? What should I do? And then sometimes a bad decision, you feel the consequences of it years later. And you're like, oh man, I shouldn't have made that decision. You know what I'm saying? And emotional decisions, I love her, she loves me, but you're like 14 years old. You don't even know how to spell love, okay? And then you make a decision about your entire life. And then when you're 20, I'm sorry, I'm very straightforward, right? I'm very straightforward. I lived in this country, born and raised. This is the reality. And then you're making this decision based on this. Of course it's a wrong decision. My parents don't know anything, they don't even speak English. They're not from this country. No, the way you're making a decision is wrong. You're not making a rational decision. It's all based on emotions, and emotional decisions are not good decisions. That's why when a fundraiser comes, he pumps you up. Allah's gonna give you this, that. All right, who's gonna give $10,000? Oh, I'll give it. Because you're all emotional now. I'll give my house. And then you go home like, what did I just do? You just got emotionally blackmailed, right? That was an emotion. It's good to make emotional decisions for deen. Fine. But and if a fundraiser, wallah, it doesn't matter how good the project is. It doesn't matter how good the project is. If the fundraiser does not touch your emotions, he can't take money out of you. No, I've seen it all my life. Sheikh Yasir Qadi was with us right now. And he's like, man, no one's like your older brother, Sheikh Abdullah. This dude Sheikh Abdullah's like, until I don't see people crying, I don't ask them for money. That's what he says, a joke. Right? Because it's an emotional decision. Rationally, like, I'm gonna give $20,000, but I work so hard for it. Emotionally, is like, forget it, just give it. Okay? And mothers have to be emotional because mothers, when they're raising their children, imagine if they start making rational decisions with their baby child who was just born. I mean, it doesn't make sense to them, you know? You're giving your entire life. You're going through all this pain. You're changing, your whole entire body's changing. Every single thing is based on your child. Allah has given that love to that mother, and her decisions are based on her love, and that's the only way it works. Otherwise, it doesn't make sense. So that's why they are the queens of this world. Nobody can go get the status of a mother. Nobody. Right? Even the Prophet has to submit to his mom. Nonetheless, so what do you say? How many do you say so far? Inna lil hasana diya'an fil wajh. Attraction, nuran fil qalb. Light in the heart that makes you make decisions properly. Wasi'atan fil rizq. Allah gives you barakah in your sustenance. Barakah. Not doesn't mean more. Oh, I was 50,000 last year, I got 100,000 this year. Barakah, guys. That's not what it means. It actually could, if you're making 50,000 last year and you're making 100,000 this year, it's possible there's less barakah. Barakah means, Allah barik li fima a'tayt. A'tayt is a madi sigha. Oh, Allah put barakah in that which you've already given me. So whatever Allah has given you, He puts barakah in it. And that becomes sufficient. That becomes enough. It becomes enough of a source of happiness. Trust me, go around, see communities of people who have more and more and more, but less happiness. Less appreciation. That's a sign there's no barakah. We have students in our madrasa, in our boarding school, who are literally like, so like from entitled families. MashaAllah, Allah's given them so much, but still like nothing's enough. There's no happiness, there's no joy, because barakah is gone. And then you have children in our homes. Are we giving adhan now? Oh, a few minutes? Okay. You have children in our school, literally in our school. We have a child in our school, like his mother I can go on about stories. Like we have a child in our school, I was just dealing with him. His mother passed away giving birth to his brother. She was only 28 years old, and he's 1.5 years old. The father was so cold-hearted, had no nur in the heart, that as soon as his wife passed away, he abandoned the child. And that child is being raised by his khala and khalu. And this child doesn't even know that he thinks they're a biological mother and father. And then he just found out from another evil person in the community that had a problem with his mom, that he had a problem with the aunt. He went up to the child, she went up to the child, straight to the child's face and said, this mother and father, they're not your real mom and dad. This is what happens when Iman leaves. You become worse than animals. And this child found out 1.5 years ago, and he's completely traumatized now. And his behavior changed. They sent him to the school, and we just expelled him a few days ago because he was doing wrong things in the school. And so we expelled him. And he's crying and crying and crying. His aunt and uncle, the uncle comes, who are his mom and dad, they sit with me, and they tell me the whole story. I say, you know what? Just go home for 1 week, we'll bring you back. We'll try to help him. Because we're his last hope. All right? So people come from these people come from these crazy backgrounds, And so happiness and sadness has nothing to do with money. Barakah is barakah. Wasi'atan fi rizq also means barakah in time. So it means both things. Barakah is not just money. Barakah is also time. Nowadays, what's happening is things that could have been achieved in 1 week are taking years to get done. When barakah happens, things that are supposed to take years are being done in weeks. Like, wow, how did that happen? That's barakah. So the third effect of a good deed is what? Barakah. The fourth effect of one good deed is وَقُوَّةً فِي الْبَدَنِ. Allah gives you tawfiq to do it again, to do more good deeds. Because are you sitting here through your own will and power, or are you sitting here because Allah gave you tawfiq to do it? Tell me. Allah give you tawfiq. None of us are here with our own will and power. Allah chose us, give us tawfiq, وَمَا تَوْفِيقِ إِلَّا بِاللَّهِ. Because Allah gave us tawfiq, we are here, I'm speaking to you. And if it wasn't for the tawfiq of Allah, we wouldn't be here. And the only way to get more tawfiq is to do more good. And every time you do good, you get more tawfiq, you do more good. And the effect continues. So that's how it works. And I can talk about that forever, but I'm not going to do that right now. Maybe next time. And the fifth thing that happens right when you do a good deed is the best one. All of them are good, but I love the last one. وَمَحَبَّةً فِي قُلُوبِ الْخَلْقِ. Allah puts your love in the hearts of people around you. People love you. That love, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا وَعَمِلُوا الصَّالِحَاتِ سَيَجْعَلْ لَهُمُ الرَّحْمَنُ وُدًّا. That love is something from Allah's treasures. You cannot buy this love with a candlelight dinner. You cannot buy this love by taking vacations. Sometimes it gets worse. Sometimes it gets worse. You go, honey, oh, it gets worse. Like recently, all of the ulama and marriage counselors have all unanimously agreed, tell couples, don't take honeymoon right away. Tell them to wait a few weeks. Wait a month. Don't go right away. Because when you travel, you're different. And they see the different sides of, oh, you left your passport? Why are you so dumb for? Huh? I just gave you the passport. And then just because losing the passport, boom, a fight breaks out. And then maybe one of the couples is forgetful, to leave their keys somewhere. And then and maybe the other one is very allergic to that. And because of these small things, and then that you never recover from it. So they say, get to know each other in your real marriage life for a few months and then go for your honeymoon. Nobody listens. Nobody listens. Everyone still does it. Because that's how we are. But khair, if you have some sense of, it's good to do it, just tell your husband, chill, If the women do say it, the husbands will do it, 100%. Because that's how we are, right? The sisters make an agreement that we're going to do this. We're going to start this new movement. Not right away. We're going to do after a month or two, then it will start happening. So the fifth thing that happens is Allah puts love in the hearts of people around you. People start loving you. Allah put the love in people's hearts around the Prophet ﷺ. Animals loved him. Non-living things loved him. Everyone loved him. Even a non-Muslim loved him. They had love for him. So this is the effect of one good deed. You do good deeds, you're the first beneficiary of the good deed. Just like how food has impact, deeds have impacts. I never scared you with the effects of bad deeds. I never scared you with that. Because I want to leave you in a good zone. Right? But Abdullah bin Abbas, he says, Ya sahib al-dhanb, la ta'man aqibata dhanbik. Oh, the one who's committing a sin, don't sit in peace after you have committed the sin. فَإِنَّ مِمَّا يَتَّبِعُ الذَّنْبَ أَعْظَمْ مِنَ الذَّنْبِ. Abhi dekho kya hone wala. Literally saying that. Watch what's going to happen to you now. What's going to happen to you now is going to be really bad. So that's true as well. Of course, we commit sins, we do tawbah. And when we do good deeds, have that in our mind. Okay, I'm doing it because we're people that we are creatures of, that we always do that what's beneficial for us. We always look for our own benefit. So find your own benefit in good deeds. And what's going to happen? You do more good deeds. Find your own benefit in coming to the masjid for salah. If I go to the masjid for salah, I'm going to benefit. Watch, you'll come more. It's literally a transaction. If I be patient right now when someone's hurting me and I stay quiet, I don't say anything, you start literally thinking that I'm going to benefit more, forget it, you won't respond. And like that, if you start thinking like that, slowly you'll start seeing a change and shift in your personality, and Allah will continue to bless you, and then you start seeing His blessings, and then you get addicted to it. You're like, this is what I want, and you keep doing it. Allah make us among those who act upon whatever was said, bring it into our lives, convey it to others, and inshallah, we continue seeing each other like this in the masjid over and over again. For those of us who don't know who I am, the guy who said this whole bio, you didn't remember any of that, just remember Miftah Institute, okay? Because everyone's gonna come to me afterwards, are you on social media? Do you have a phone number? I don't really share that with I'm very bad with my phone. So I don't pick up my phone calls, because I don't ever have my phone on me. But if you want, we have, and plus, I don't have social media. So just Miftah Institute, they post our lectures online all the time, and they have different things. Miftah Institute is close to you guys in Michigan. Anytime there's programs, come by. and you come by, you'll be my guest. You tell me I met you in Akron Masjid when you were talking about the biryani, or you're talking about that, the honeymoon after 2 months, whatever you remember. And tell me what you remember, and I'll remember who you are. And inshallah, we'll have a good time like that. So, now you can take your phones out and see it afterwards. Miftah Institute is with 2 A's. And inshallah, every time we have programs, you come by to Michigan. Hopefully, I can continue to come by over here once in a while to see you guys as well, inshallah. Jazakallah khair. I'm not going to answer the question. You're going to answer the question yourself. All right, how many grandchildren did the Prophet ﷺ have? And the first story of the Prophet, okay? Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.